Welcome back to Beyond CoSell. I'm Andrew Morris, and this is part two of our reInvent debrief with my co-host Michael Musselman. Our first part was a bit ad hoc, so go over to that one. I think it was quite interesting. And we definitely went off script. We talked about the gap between partners are force multipliers and the reality of the squeeze programs, where GSIs are the real chefs in the AI birthday cake, and how much of the agentic AI buzz is market forces versus pure marketing. So today we want to be a little bit more practical, as reInvent was last week. And so you've flown home, Michael, or you've read Matt's posts, and your CEO's asking you, based on what Matt and Ruba laid out at reInvent, what should we be considering over the next 90 days? So let's start there.
Good question. I hope no one asks me that question.
Yeah.
So the good part about this is you and I don't prep. So this is like straight off the cuff, and you get an insight into how we think and how we approach this, because this is kind of what happens in the real world. I think there's two big themes that I pulled away. If I had to bottle up all of reInvent, including like there's all those services, and Garmin like did that rapid fire of all these service releases and all kinds of stuff. The two big things are maybe marketing, but it's the future, right? Because they're selling the future. So it's AI, right? And now AI is nuanced, right? There's the what it's always been, I would say machine learning, and now these AI, and then what LLMs have become. And there's this LLM kind of part of AI. And then there's this agentic side of AI. And there's a bunch of new products in Agent Core and Bedrock and all this stuff. So AI as a bucket and all the little micro pieces, like clearly
Yeah.
that's the biggest theme. That's the buzzword of the day. The second big one I would say is probably on Ruba, but it's always still about marketplace. Marketplace is still really, it's a huge theme.
Yeah, agreed.
But the underpinning to that theme is kind of what we were talking about, which is, a lot of the world's workloads aren't in a public cloud. Forget AWS for a second. They're not in Google. They're not in Azure. They're not in Alibaba. They're not in Oracle. So the thing is that there's still this big need or want to modernize these workloads, take them out of the mainframes and the on-prem data centers, and still migrate that stuff into a public cloud. Then once they're deciding to go into a public cloud, there's still going to be this, I don't know, knife fight between the three big hyperscalers and all of that for which cloud. And then those programs, the partners, and what services they have and all that stuff. That's the other fight. That's the day two fight.
Yeah, be strategic rather than tactical. I think yesterday was interesting because you actually articulated it very well, I thought, which was the doubling down on GSIs. And it's always something that I constantly articulate that no one actually gives a crap about AWS, Cisco, Splunk, whatever. They're focusing businesses by business solutions. And the people that will actually mix all those ingredients together, who are very, very strong around that, are the GSIs, the regional SIs.
That's a really wide paintbrush. I group customers into buyers and builders.
Yep.
And I think what you said is very, very true for buyers. But I think me and other software companies, I think most cloud native, so in AWS's world, I think of startups segment, I think of ISV segment, I think of swim segment, I think of, even in SMB, they could be cloud native SMB companies, they could be cloud migrant. But I think companies that build, their partner is AWS. They
Yeah.
just read the docs, get the certs, and they spin the credit card and they go build. But buyers, enterprises that weren't cloud companies, maybe they're a manufacturing company, maybe now they need a banking company and they need a mobile app and they need a website, like that part of it is the digital footprint to their traditional businesses, which now all of them are becoming software companies, but they probably, if you're the best engineer out of school, you're probably trying to get a job at Meta or Google. You're not probably going to work for a healthcare company to build software. So talent is different. Pay is different for talent. So I think those are the kind of companies where if I don't have that in-house expertise, where do I go find it?
Yeah.
And the truth is, some of these people work at these big cloud native, like hyper growth software companies, and a lot of them have started their own consultancy practices, or they're all the solution architects at the big GSIs, regional SIs, even some VARs that are now like part resell, part delivery. They're VAR SIs too.
Yeah.
So I think that's really like to interject, like that's just the game we're playing. That's all the players on the pitch. That's kind of the thing. But I do agree when you look at where the workloads still are not in the cloud, again, it's those traditional enterprises that are starting to become cloud aware and starting to become software companies more and more. And they're starting, so who's got probably the best relationships and history with them? Yeah, you're right. It's the SIs, it's the builders, it's those big VARs, it's those big different markets have different partner types, but
Yep.
it's them. They're the ones that I have to court so that they unlock that and bring it to my cloud. I mean, my strategy for Kong, right? I'm less than 2 months in. I already have my strategy in my head. It's not that different, right? My job is to go build us a best friend relationship with AWS, and hopefully they understand and they do CEO down, understand the nuances enough about AWS that that partner there is could be really, really impactful for us. The first line of my slide decks is AWS doesn't need Kong. Kong needs AWS. And I repeat that over and over again. But my point is, we're going to build our thing and we're going to sell. And they could be a huge lift and leverage and friend to us. But it still comes back to, in my opinion, I call them gifts, but where are the program dollars? Maybe it's not what Matt and Ruba said. She's awesome in her whole team, but like Julia Chen, Julia reports to Ruba, but like all the programs, and Julia does sessions at reInvent, her team does sessions, but like that's where the programs are. So if I'm an SI, what competencies do I have? Do I have skilled up engineers? Do I need training and education so that we know stuff? But the competencies in the programs are important. Am I a map partner, migration acceleration? Am I doing other, like all the partner types, all the specializations that AWS offers, even the vertical specializations? Am I an SI for healthcare? Am I an SI for financial services? Those things are all true. Those validate you, but also remember, if I was explaining this earlier actually to one of our salespeople, but if I'm an S and maybe I do know the customer, maybe I'm working on a migration to some AWS services and the AWS reps trying to pull Greenfield, trying to pull things in. The truth is those programs act as a catalyst to the reaction too. They lower the total cost of ownership. Sometimes they fund a pilot, like, hey, you've got this app that lives, on a Linux server inside your data center, and you're thinking about turning it into a modern microservice-based architecture in the cloud. Awesome. Like maybe that's a POC that AWS says, look, you're going to spend some time and resources and you're going to spin up some infrastructure. I'll cover all or some of the infrastructure costs for that pilot. That's what I'd be looking for is like, where are those subsidies? Where are those program dollars? But to get those program dollars, what do I have to be in the lens of AWS to apply or to do those things?
Yeah.
And on the ISV side, I do the exact same thing. It's like, okay, cool. Well, I'm an ISV. I can't do map. Awesome. Who are all the top map partners? Who are the ones that are selling birthday cakes, who are getting funded POCs? Can I go be one of the ingredients in there? I spend reInvent not doing what people think is like chasing a bunch of executive meetings, and I don't even waste my time on that stuff anymore. Unless I'm one of the biggest customers or the biggest partners and I'm doing $1 billion through the market, I can't ask for that stuff. I haven't earned the right to do any of that stuff. So I think through what are the other service owners, the other key services, the other things that they all have time. Their leaders are roaming around. I go and we meet and spend time with a lot of those folks. And it's not always about what happens at reInvent. It's what can we do after reInvent? The follow-up is way more important. You know me, I'm the king of analogies. I at reInvent, I was talking about you going outside. So this is true to you when you're in London. Like you go outside, you see rain clouds, and you're like, huh, today Kool-Aid is gonna fall from the sky.
Yeah.
And like anyone knows that, like, if that's what you're expecting, you're going to be very disappointed. But if you go outside, you see rain clouds, you're like, ah, there's probably a good chance rain is going to fall from the sky. And I think if that's what you're expecting, you're not going to be disappointed in whatever strategy or whatever you're talking about. I just found that that was my analogy for this reInvent, was a little bit of like, if you're expecting the impossible to happen, like,
You're going to be disappointed. That's another session in itself. But yeah.
yeah, okay.
Cool. Hey, listen, thank you so much. Have a great weekend.